questions for our conversation today, life-changing questions. So launch into them and let's get
All
going.
right, let's do it. Well, we are live. We are all now live on all the platforms.
Okay, remember, all of our friends, is that the one common goal that everybody has is to MMM, which is to make.
Oh yes. But Dad, we are also trying to give people a 360 holistic view of you through the perspective of your children. So bear with us. Thank you everyone for joining us. We have Thinking Time from Chicago's in. We have a cool episode planned for you today. This is an episode of the Brian Tracy Experience. I am joined by my co-hosts, my sister Christina Tracy Stein, and my brother David Tracy. We are all in different locations, and of course, we have the living legend himself, the Brian Tracy, as we like to call him.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, before we get some more people joining in, hello Natalie, hello Anna, welcome. Okay, so hey, Paul Kelly from Ireland's on. Varesh,
welcome Varesh,
coming from YouTube. All right, they're streaming in. So today's theme is everybody's favorite topic, depending on if you have it or not. It's money.
Well, certainly Dad's favorite topic, MMM. It's like
make more money. But I think the goal of this episode is not necessarily talk about how to make more of it. It's what your relationship to it is. Like, how do you think about it? Because you kind of have to get that part right before you get everything else right. So,
yes.
With that,
Ishmael, Benz, Iga, Ahmed, Geraldo, Varesh, Chris, Laura, Momdo, Karen.
Momdo, welcome.
We get a nice contingent from all over the world. So, Dad, high level, how do you think about money, generally speaking?
Well, I had an experience many years ago. I was working for a real estate company, and I was attending a seminar, and I was stuck in the motel, and there was no television, and I had just received a book called Human Action by the economist Ludwig von Mises. And so I began to read it, and it changed my life forever. Basically, what it said is that everything is human action, and all action is purposeful. It's aimed at something. It's aimed at achieving something or changing an existing condition. Well, it's about 800 pages, and I read it and read it and read it. And when I was finished, I was changed forever. Basically, it says that money is simply a symbol of value. And if you want more of it, then you have to create more value. Sometimes in my seminars, I say, how many people here work on straight commission? And even in a sales audience, only about 15, 20% of people raise their hands. I said, well, now let me ask the question again, because obviously you didn't understand, is how many people here are paid in direct relationship to the value that they create for their company and for other people? And there's a silence, and then every hand in the room goes up. We all work on commission. So if you want to earn more money, what you have to do is you have to produce more value. You have to contribute more value. You have to continually looking for ways to help other people, to help them to achieve their goals. And the more you do that, the more successful you'll be. A perfect example, is Bill Gates of Microsoft. He came up with the idea that there should be a computer on every desktop. And everybody said that was ridiculous. IBM at the time, giant company, the president of IBM said there's a total market for desktop computers of maybe 150 units worldwide.
Speaking of Microsoft, this is actually a really interesting backstory. Bill Gates went to his dad, and his dad wrote up the agreement that he originally signed with IBM. And he went to charge IBM, per computer, like one license per computer. And Bill Gates Sr. said, no, like you should give them an unlimited license for one payment. I think it was $100,000. And it turned out that decision made Microsoft, because after IBM paid $100,000, they put MS-DOS, or the disk operating system, on every IBM computer that was sent out. And it became 70%, 80% of the computers that were sent out had the default operating system as Microsoft DOS. And then all the developers, all the software developers started writing for that that operating system. And then when other people started joining into the personal computer market, he sold those people individual licenses. And that's what made Microsoft incredibly valuable. But if he hadn't dominated the market by giving a 100% unconditional license for one payment to IBM, that would have never happened.
Yeah, it was a miracle.
Good. It was as far as strategic business decisions go. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent. But
one of the most important things is why is Microsoft successful? Well, because it enables people to get more done faster at a lower cost and a lower amount of time. And as soon as the people began to embrace the Microsoft's DOS system, everybody had to use it or something similar to it. And then Apple, of course, jumped in with their system. And now today, everybody has at least one or two computers at home. And then when they had the COVID a few years ago, Zoom suddenly came into prominence. And instead of holding classes with classrooms, they had classes on Zoom and business conferences on Zoom. And today, Zoom, like today, what we have, is one of the most prominent business features in the entire world. Why? Because it makes things faster and easier and cheaper and better and so on. So that's really the key to success. If you want to be successful, help other people to achieve their goals faster, easier, and cheaper.
You talk about goals, Dad, and when you talk about writing down your goals in terms of financial goals, how would you phrase it? Because I see some questions already in the comments about that. Is there a way that you phrase it to yourself every day when you write down financial goals?
Well, it's very important that your goals are stretch goals, but realistic. If you say, well, I want to earn $1 million this week or this month or this year, then that goal actually has a negative effect on you because it's so impossible that you lose all motivation. So take a goal, and a simple goal is to double your income. Say, I earn this amount by this date. Say it in the present tense. And what you do is you program it. When you write it down, you program it into your subconscious mind, which then works to achieve that goal 24 hours a day, waking and sleeping. And the most amazing things will happen. We talk about the law of attraction. You will meet people at work or at a social event. You'll meet people on a bus. It's the most extraordinary thing. But once you've written the goal, it must be in writing. And there's truckloads of research on this. When you write it down in the present tense, 24 hours a day, all the powers of your mind go to work to bring that goal to you. And as you know, we've talked about this before. Write it down every day. Every day, write down your goal.
So going back to this concept of having like their relationship with money, right? Like people, yes, we provide value to earn money, and you earn the amount of money that represents the amount of value you provide. But that's one dimension of money. I think that one challenge people have is even just talking about money. Like I know in our family, like I remember as a child that money was not it's a private subject. It's not a subject that you discuss openly. And so I'm wondering, like, for you, Dad, what was your relationship like with I know you earned money from a very young age. So like, how did you feel about money, and how did that impact the way you talk to us about money, or how you wanted to approach money as a parent?
Well, in life, you are guided by your values. What are your most profound and most important values? And when I do strategic planning for individuals or corporations, the first thing we do is we say, what are our values? What is so important to us that we will not compromise it? And you know what I'm going to say? My number one value has been freedom. Freedom. And freedom means that you can do what you want to do without having to beg somebody else for it. And one of the things we've done with you guys is we've given you freedom. Whatever you wanted to do or needed to do, we've made resources available to you. And so the reason for money is that money buys freedom. If you have enough money, you are free to make choices. If you don't have enough money, then you're constantly worrying and wondering, can I afford this? Can I do this? So when I learned about this as a young man, when I began to read von Mises and economics, I found that the key to increasing your money is to increase your value. Again, going back to what I said, we all work on commission. Now, each of you guys is self-sufficient. You're working hard. You're earning more money. But there's the most important thing, and I'm thinking of writing about this, is incentives. What are the incentives? Is everything in our society depends upon the structure of incentives. And if you have clear incentives that motivate people to engage in positive, constructive behaviors, then everybody benefits. Today, we're having a lot of controversy over the size of government. And you're finding that there are hundreds of thousands, even millions of people who work for government who don't work. They don't even come into the office. They just get their paychecks. They were signed up and hired some time ago, and then they couldn't stay in the office because of COVID. So they went home, and their paychecks just arrive every week or twice a month.
So, Dad, I've got a question. People make a distinction between rich and wealthy.
Yes.
So why don't you talk about the difference? What's the difference between being rich and being wealthy?
Well, probably the difference is that if either one, you have enough so that you never have to worry about money again. And a wise man once told me that your ultimate aim in your working life is to reach the point where you never worry about money again. Now, we've talked before about the 80-20 rule. 20% of people earn enough so that they are thinking about what they're doing and their goals and what they want to achieve. They have enough money so they don't worry about money. 80% of people, tragically enough, we're all in that boat, worry about money. They go to sleep at night, worry about money. They get up in the morning. They talk about it over the family dinner table. It's like a cloud over their head until you reach a point where you earn more than it costs to live. At that point, your whole life changes, and that's your goal.
Well, what about like the idea of having like your attitude around money, right? Like some people have an attitude or a belief system that there's an abundance, that there's plenty of money to earn, and that you're deserving if you put out your value, and that it's there, right? A positive relationship with money versus people who grow up with a different money script of there's never enough. I'm not good enough to earn money. It'll never be that. I won't ever be rich. I won't ever have enough to have this freedom that you're talking about. How do you change your mental attitude or your relationship with money if you come from nothing and want to believe in abundance?
So Christina, to kind of clarify, what you're saying is it mindset before money? Do you have to change your mind about money before you can make a lot of money?
So basically, like, I read this book called Mind Over Money, and it's interesting. It's written by a father, son. They're both like therapists, and they basically specialize in helping people with their relationships with money, right? Like that's kind of what we started talking about. And the idea is that you really have a relationship with money based on, as a child, when you're exposed to it, when you first interact with money, whether you're given money, whether you earn money, whether you have a lot of money, you just develop a relationship and a belief system around the way you interact with money based on where you come from. And so if you have a positive experience of money as a child and growing up, then you have that belief system or mindset, like you're saying, is how you approach money as an adult. But sometimes people, like if you grow up poor, if you grow up without money, and you never reflect on your belief system, how you connect to money and what a poor person experience is, then you might earn a bunch of money. You might become very wealthy. But if you don't reflect on that attitude or that script around money as an adult, then you still do things and you still act. You treat money the same way you would have if you didn't have a lot.
It's like those people who win the lottery, right?
Yes.
And they make hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever, and then within a few years they're broke again because.
Exactly.
Christina, you used the word script, and I think that's so important, right? So how do you rewrite the script? Because when you don't have money, you're in a mindset of scarcity and fear, and that sort of it feeds it back to you, right? You're not going to find abundance when you're in a mindset of fear, but you're not going to find money until you change your mindset to abundance. But if you don't have it, how do you rewrite that script? Because this is the thing that I think people have the hardest time with. Is I don't have money. I need to change my mindset to get money.
But there's one more piece, David, because it's not just abundance, right? It's because if money to some people is control, money to some people is love, right? Like these are the scripts that shape our relationships. And so
money to dad is freedom, right?
Or to dad is freedom, exactly. But it's also, so your experience of money is your script. So you have to identify the experience and decide if it's true for you. And then you can shift your mindset of abundance or scarcity.
One of the best definitions of success is deservingness, is that you need to feel that you deserve your success. And the word deserve comes from the Latin, which is de servus, which is from service. So everybody in life earns their well-being, earns their money, especially in the private sector, from serving others. So one of your main goals, the reason you get an education, is so that you are capable of serving at a higher level. The reason you continue to go to seminars and read and upgrade your skills is because you become more valuable. You can contribute more value to your company and to your customers. So always think about deserve. Is how much do I deserve? If you deserve more, then you're going to get more. And that comes from contributing value to others, making other people better off so that they eagerly buy your product. I was just watching the movie about Ray Kroc and McDonald's and the founding of McDonald's. And they had this one idea. These two brothers is serve really good food and serve it fast and serve it fresh. And people started to come from everywhere to buy McDonald's. And they started to order so many milkshake machines that Roy Kroc from Chicago drove all the way out to San Bernardino in California to see what company was ordering so many milkshake machines. And it shows him in the movie. It shows him going up there and saying, "I'd like to order this and that," and so on. And they said, "Here it is." Boom. So wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just ordered it. Yes, it's done. So a few seconds and turned it around. He said, "Well, where do I eat it? Wherever you like. Go home, take it, sit outside, whatever. But do you have tables or chairs or restaurants or waiters or anything?" No. It's just fast, fresh, inexpensive, and immediate. And he walked back again and again. Finally, he spoke to them, and they had two brothers, the McDonald brothers. One of them was an accountant, and he was really fastidious about the costs of everything. And the other was a sales guy, and he was really fastidious about sales. And the two of them worked together and developed this system, and it was just booming. So Ray Kroc said, "Could I use this system of yours back in Chicago?" And they said, "Sure." So went back to Chicago. He put together the system, opened a McDonald's, and it started to succeed. It started to proliferate. And so he went back out. He said, let's do a deal." They said, "Well, we don't like this idea because we're small town people. So we'll make a deal. We'll sell you the rights to the McDonald's system. And we only ask for one thing, is that you keep our name on the additional franchises. And we'll receive a commission or a payment for each one. And they did. And Ray Kroc ended up one of the richest people in the world, several $billion. And there's now 34,000 McDonald's restaurants in the world, and not one to ever failed. Why? It's because people are hungry. They want to save money. They want to do it fast. They want to get in and out. And so McDonald's keeps getting better and better and faster and more delicious at low prices. So you have to ask, sometimes all you need to do, I just read a wonderful story about Fred Smith, who established Federal Express. And what happened was it took about 7 days to get a letter through the Postal Service. So he came up with the idea that you can get letters in one day, overnight express. And so he looked at the whole country, and he found that there was one airport that you could have planes in and out of. It was clear more than any other airport, and it was Memphis. So he bought several planes, and he began delivering packages, letters overnight, and totally transformed the world of business, because people now say, "Well, FedEx it." Whatever the business becomes a verb, and they just FedEx it. It made him one of the richest people in the world. Everybody that associated with hundreds, thousands of airplanes. They're now in over 200 countries. And it started off with one idea to deliver mail overnight.
Dad, was there a time, you talk about money sort of equals freedom to you. Was there an experience you had in your earlier days where you realized you're in control? You like, because you talked to me about when you were a boy, you used to sell soap, and you'd go door to door selling soap. And one day you came home and you realized, I think you were earning more than your father selling soap. And so was that the experience, or did it come later where you realized like you're in control of your freedom because of your ability to make money? Like what was that experience for you?
Well, each person has special and unique skills and abilities. Most people never tap into them. It's almost like I had a gentleman come to me. He and his wife came to me at one of my seminars, and she was wearing a beautiful mink coat, and he was wearing a beautiful suit, very obviously very well off. He was wearing a Rolex watch, and she had diamonds, and they'd come to my seminar for 2 days. And they told me the story is that their grandfather came out from the old country, Europe, and moved out and managed to get 160 acres from the government, and he began a farm. But the soil wasn't that good, and the weather wasn't that good, so he just basically could earn enough to get by. And he built a house, and then he passed it on to his son, and then the son passed it on to this man and his wife. And he said they were raising goats in order to earn money during the winter. They had this little house on the farm. They had poor utilities and everything else. And one day, an oil company came by and said, "We're drilling test drills or test wells. Could we drill on your farm? And if we do and we find oil, we will pay you a royalty." And he had nothing to lose, so he said, "Go ahead." They drilled, and they found a major oil pool, and he started earning $2,000 a day. And this is many years ago. It'd be $10,000 a day now. He started earning the equivalent of $10,000 a day, and suddenly he went from being a poor goat farmer to being rich. And here was the point. The point was that the oil was always there. The oil was there when the grandfather was there, when the father was there, and for most of his life, the oil was there. The equivalent is your talents and abilities. Every person has talents and abilities that are so wonderful that if you could tap into them, you can accomplish anything that you want in life. So one of the and the 80-20 rule applies in success. 20% of people earn 80% of the money. That means that 80% of the people earn only 20%, and they worry about money all the time. But the top 20% earn more and more and more, and they get better and better and better. And they're constantly studying and upgrading their skills, and becoming more competent.
How do you know? How do you know, Dad, if you're in the bottom 80%, if you're just in the wrong field, the wrong industry, the wrong job, or if you're just not applying these strategies?
Well, the most important thing in success is that you enjoy your work. You love your work. You like the people you work with, and you like the people that you work for. And if you don't wake up in the morning eager to go to work, happy to go to work, then it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with your work. It just means that it's the wrong one for you. It's just like each of us are happily married. Well, that doesn't mean if you meet another person when you're single that there's something wrong with them. It's just that you're not compatible. So what you have to do is you have to be very disciplined and say, what is it that I love to do? What is it that makes me really happy? What is it that I enjoy the most? What is it that people want? And be very selfish, because when you start to do, as Napoleon Hill said, when you start to do what you love to do, you'll never work another day in your life. And everybody, all of you guys, everybody that I know in my seminars and books and tapes and courses who is successful loves their work, and they're happy all the time.
Yeah.
They laugh, they're happy, they go out with their friends. And the more you love your work, the better you do it. And the better you do it, the more promoted you are, the more people pay you, and the happier you are. So you get into an upward spiral in life.
I have a question.
That passion really shines through for you, Dad. I don't want to pivot away from the money, but this sort of pertains to that, because when you were coming up in Canada, you were given a shot. And somebody asked a question. Will Rich, thank you for the question. He asked about the philosophies and service of Earl Nightingale. And my name is David Lloyd Victor Tracy. Victor and Lloyd Conant, Nightingale Conant. Like this guy had a huge impact on Brian. Earl Nightingale and Victor and Lloyd Conant. And those guys sort of gave you a shot, right? You sent in a tape and they heard you speaking and they said, who is this young upstart from Canada? And so do you mind just kind of pivoting for a minute and talking about Earl Nightingale and what he meant for you coming up?
Well, when I was struggling and I wanted to be successful, I read about an audio program done by Dennis Waitley, my dear friend who just died recently. And it was called Psychology of Winning. So I bought it. It was $60, and I bought it through the mail. And Barbara and I listened to it when we were on our honeymoon, when we were driving through the Rocky Mountains and there was no radio reception. We just listened to these ideas about goals and commitments and hard work. And we'd never heard these ideas before. So we began to apply them. Also, Nightingale Conant began to issue other programs. So I would buy them one after another and listen to them as I drove from place to place. And then I began to give seminars, and we gave a wonderful 2-day seminar that everybody loved. And Barbara, my dear wife, said, you should send a copy of this seminar program to Nightingale Conant. And I said, no, they wouldn't be interested in a nobody from nowhere in northern Canada. They said, well, give it a try. So I went back and forth, and finally she said, because we recorded the seminar and packaged it, so she said, you should send it to Nightingale Conant in Chicago. These are the giants in the world. It'd be like sending a home movie to MGM to get a role as an actor. So anyway, I listened to Barbara. I sent it by FedEx down to Chicago, and 2 days later I called them up and I said, what do you think? And they said, well, it came in the mail, and Lloyd Conant, the president of this company, was on his way home. He said, anything new come in? Listen to it on the way home. And she said, well, this came in from Canada. He said, okay, I'll listen to it. He came in the next day and he said, this is really good. We're going to produce it as a program. And so they brought me down to Chicago. I re-recorded the program. They issued it, and it became the best-selling program, Psychology of Achievement, best-selling program on success in the world, and still is. Sold millions of copies in 39 languages and so on.
The Phoenix Seminar.
And it was called the Phoenix Seminar, and they changed it to the Psychology of Achievement. And but it was Barbara's continually goading me to send it to them. Finally, I had the courage to send it to them. And here's something that we learned is that the greatest fear that people have is the fear of rejection. What if I send it to them and they say, no, it's no good? So then what you do is you just don't do it at all. What you have to do, and there's several books. There's the best-selling book today is by Mel Robbins, and it's called what is it called? It's right there.
Just let them.
The let them theory.
Yeah.
In other words, whatever people think, let them think it. In other words, forget about what anybody else thinks about you. You are the most important arbiter of your own thinking. And if you try something, the worst that can happen is that it doesn't work. And there's a rule that we've talked about before: nothing works. And it doesn't work the first time or the second time. Every successful person has failed over and over again and lost time and money. But what happens is they learn and they become better. So set a goal to double your income. And then you ask yourself, all right, what would I have to do to double my service, to double the value of my contribution? And there's a wonderful little story of this guy who goes to work for a big company, and the company's got an ocean of desks with people at their desk working. And he notices that his boss comes in at 8 o'clock in the morning and leaves at about 5:30. So he decided he would come in at 7:30, and he would be there when his boss arrived, and he would stay until 6 or 6:30. So he was there when his boss left. All the other staff came in on time and left. He was always there when the boss came in, and he was always there when the boss left. And so the boss asked, why are you always here? He said, well, I'm here because I hope I could be of some service to you that nobody else can at that time. And he said, well, that's interesting, and walks away. A couple of days later, he brings him back. He said, can you do this for me overnight? I'm written behind. And he said, yes. And he jumped on it, pounced on it, completed the assignment. Boss came in the morning, it was done. The boss nods and smiles, and he gives him another little assignment, and then a bigger assignment. And within a few months, he was a manager. He had his own office. He had his own staff. He was paid 2-3 times as much. He developed a reputation. If you want something done, give it to him, give it to her. And that is the most important reputation that you can develop. Someone once said the most important ability in business is dependability. And it's the ability to get the job done, get it done quickly and well. And it makes your bosses, the people who can control your destiny, it makes them so happy when they have a person that they know if you give them a job, they'll do it quickly and well. So
would you say then reframing money into service is the best way you can start with that? So when you think about people, I need money, I need this contract closed, I need this person to sign this contract, immediately shift your mindset from money to service. To service. And that's the best way to do it?
Yes, of course. We all work on commission. You get a percentage of the value that you create. That's why one of the things we say is to be successful, you have to do 3 things. I call it the golden triangle. Number 1 is accept complete responsibility for your life and for everything that happens to you. No excuses, no blame. Most people are blaming other people, their parents and their boss and others for their problems. No, you are responsible. You are responsible. So the magic words for total control are I am responsible. I'm responsible. Number 2 is to set written goals. Write down exactly what you want. If it's writing it down that makes it come true, and write it in the present tense as though it were already a fact. And number 3 is continuous learning. Continually read and learn and upgrade your skills. Continually get better and better at what you do. And many things that you try won't work. You'll fail over and over again. But the more you fail, the faster you learn. So we say you fail your way to success.
Christina, you could, the first one he mentioned, accepting complete responsibility. This is sort of like your area of expertise, right? Because a lot of people can't get started when they're holding on to all this stuff. So do you have advice on how to sort of accept complete responsibility so that you can focus on serving other people?
Well, I think part of accepting responsibility is taking action, right? Like part of the reason why people don't take responsibility is because they're hoping that someone else will do something that will change their situation. So somebody will say something, somebody will do something, and suddenly, their life will change. But I think that at least for the way I understand it and the way I communicate it, it's like, when you're waiting for someone else to do something or say something in order for your life to be affected, then you're at the mercy of other people. But if you decide, okay, what can I do? What action can I take to have an impact on my own life? Then you realize that it's up to you. Like it's up to you to make something happen. And when you decide that, then suddenly it's very empowering. And I think feeling empowered to take an action, even if it's a tiny action, is part of taking responsibility. It's owning the good and the bad. Like we make mistakes, we hurt people's feelings, we make the wrong choice. And, you can hope that somebody else will do something about it. But if you say like, okay, I made a bad choice, I had a negative impact on someone, I'm sorry, I take responsibility for my impact on another person or my bad decision. How can I make it right? How can I change and pivot? Suddenly you feel a lot more in control. And I think that really connects. You're more in control when you know that you're responsible for your own choices.
That's wonderful.
And I feel like that connects. Well, I guess I want to ask another question to you, David. Like, Dad, in being like this idea of being responsible, right? Like, I know you have found that in your life where you realized you were responsible. How did that connect though, in terms of like we're talking about money and freedom and work, right? Like you at a point in your life as a child had to realize that if you worked for something or if you provided value, you could earn money. And if you earned money, it would afford you freedom. Yes. So was it the soap that I remember you told me about the soap and how you sold the soap because you wanted to go to summer camp and that was your way of affording entrance to summer camp? Yes. Was that the experience that taught you that providing value earned you money and earning money gave you freedom?
Well, the question is really personal power. Is when you start, I was 10 years old, yeah. When you do something and achieve a reward, it locks in and you realize, I can do this. I can sell something. I used to mow lawns all around the neighborhood. And then I had an old lawnmower and I bought a better lawnmower. And then I bought a beautiful lawnmower. And my father helped me build a sort of a rickshaw behind my bicycle where I could carry my lawnmower and I could go from place to place, many blocks away, and mow people's lawns. And I would earn $2.50 a lawn, which took me about 1 hour. So that would be the same as $25 today. It's the most amazing thing. And I got this idea. There's a direct connection between my working and doing good work and getting paid and being free. And so for the rest of my life, whenever I had a situation, I traveled in more than 80 countries before I was 30 years old. Today it's 124 countries that I've been to. I ran out of money. I used to travel till I was broke, and then I'd stop and find a job. And it was almost always a sales job. But sometimes it was selling cars. Sometimes it was laboring work. I worked when I was 23. I worked on a farm for the harvest because I had to have food, had to have a place to sleep. I slept on the hay in the farmer's barn. And then I could earn enough money to continue traveling. And what I learned is that the most magic words is, I can do it. I can do it. I can find a solution. I'm not hopeless or hapless or at the mercy of fate or anything else. I'm responsible. I can do it. And I would go out and find a job and create a job and work really hard.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Christina, the soap story is really interesting to me because I remember we were at a hotel in Poland and you were telling me that story. And it was about sponsoring to go to a summer camp for Dad. And he sold enough soap to go. But then the next year, he sold even more soap, and he was able to bring some of his other friends who couldn't afford to go to the same summer camp. And so, you start and you realize that you're in control if you can sell a little bit and find that self-confidence and get a little bit of freedom, but then you bring other people up. And I remember you, the way you told the story about getting yourself into summer camp was nowhere near as emotional as when you said that you got all of your friends to go too, from the same process. So
Well,
it comes back to the service part.
What happened, I belonged to the YMCA, where I would go after school to do athletic things. And they had this program to sell soap to go to YMCA camp. And however, they didn't pay commission. If you sold 30 boxes, then that would be enough to pay for you to go to YMCA camp. But I was so good at selling, I sold 40 and 50 and 60 and 80 and 100 boxes. And what they did is they credited my extra sales to other poor kids who wanted to go to camp as well. And so the first year, I barely made enough to pay 30% of my way to camp. My second year, I made myself and that of 2 others. My third year, I made myself and 7 others. I sold so much soap that I brought about 7 poor kids to YMCA camp. I didn't care about making the money. I was just so excited about being able to sell soap to everybody because I developed a system.
And you were 10 years old. 10 years old?
Yeah.
10.
10 years. That's incredible.
You know what's really interesting about that too, Dad, is that I know we've had conversations in the Speaking Academy where people talk about wanting to be better speakers because of wanting to make money, and that there's always kind of a debate around, that wanting to have money is a negative thing, or people who want to be rich or talk about that. And in a lot of our conversations, we end up at the place that the more money you make, the more money you earn, the more people you can impact. And your story is a perfect illustration that you earned so much selling soap that it wasn't about you having this surplus, but instead it was about you being able to bring more kids with you. That the more you earn, the more people you are able to impact and help. And I think that that's a really, going back to relationship with money, for anybody who has a hesitation connecting with money, that money is a tool, right? That the more money you have, the more people you can help, you can teach, you can support. And so it really that's such a great illustration of just the idea of the more you make, the more you can actually have an impact.
And that's very important. I was reading an article on Bill Gates recently. Bill Gates is one of the richest men in the world. He started with a loan from his parents as a sort of a computer geek. And people say, well, geez, he's worth 30, 40, 50, 60, $100 billion. Yes, and that's good. And you know why? Because Microsoft employs 220,000 people at an average wage or income of $150,000 to $200,000 each. The point is that in order for you to become financially successful, you have to create jobs. You can't do it all yourself. And so successful people create jobs. The people who are the richest, the millionaires and the billionaires, they create hundreds of thousands of good, well-paying jobs that enable people to raise their families and send them to school and summer camp and to have wonderful lifestyles. So when people complain about the rich, understand the only way you can become rich is by helping other people, by employing them, giving them jobs, giving them opportunities, opening doors for them, because you can't do it by yourself. And every person who starts in business, I'm just writing a book on how to start and build a profitable business. And every person who is successful in business starts off having to hire one person. And then they have to hire 2 people and 3 people. And here's Bill Gates with 220,000 people. Here's General Motors with 1 million people. It's the most wonderful thing that the wealthy people are only wealthy because they provide so much wealth and opportunity and payrolls for other people. So it's a good thing. And the richest countries are the ones that have the most wealthy people, and they only become wealthy by helping others.
David, do you think we should take some of these questions that we're getting from our audience?
I was going to say, I appreciate, growing up, you always said, get a sales job, get a sales job, get a sales job, and get commission only so that you can see what it's like. And, my daughter's in like a co-op. She's 6 years old. And this last year she had with her friends, they basically started a chapstick and candle business. And they made all the chapsticks and candles, and they set up at a museum, and they sold them to all the passersby. And I think I sent you a picture, Dad. And
Yeah.
I just want you to know that we're carrying it on with our kids. I don't think you can start too early with that either, because they learn so much about themselves and about just the whole process. So,
Oh my gosh, totally. It's so funny, Dave. My son, Will, he plays tennis in school. And so it's summer and he's like, I need to get a summer job. So I'm going to teach tennis to kids. I'm going to, get paid to hit with kids because I'm a good tennis player. And he made a flyer, printed out the flyer, put it around the neighborhood, and he got his first customer yesterday. He was
That's great. That's
So-
great.
I love the entrepreneurial the spirit of the kids.
You're
Absolutely.
absolutely right. It's entrepreneurship
Yeah.
that opens every door for you. And that comes with it. Read, listen, learn. There's a million ways that you can become financially independent by starting and building your own business. And your job is to try this and try that and try this and try that and get busy. The great problem is people become passive. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of criticism. They're afraid of rejection. So they become passive and they go to work for someone where they have incredible talents, but their talents are never used. So what's really, really good. So who's going to lead off with questions?
Go
Go
for it,
for
Christina.
it. Okay.
I'm just rolling up these comments to take a look and see what we have here.
Yes.
Talk
So-
about from
Yeah.
Peter asking, is consistency is a roadmap to getting or making more money? So yeah, consistency sort of goes with taking action every day.
Yes,
And,
it's dependability. If people can depend on you to deliver a product or service of a certain level of quality and on time, then they buy from you again and again. There's 22 years of research that shows that if you satisfy your customer, the customer will stay with you because it's too much trouble to go and find someone else. So what the very best companies do is they always think about customer satisfaction. They always think about making their customers happy, and so happy that they buy and buy again and tell their friends. This is the secret to success in business, starting as an individual person.
yeah, we have a great comment from Gabrielle about your book, The Psychology of Selling. So if this whole topic is interesting to you, then I recommend getting The Psychology of Selling on audiobook. That was one of the books that I would listen to over and over and over again when I was knocking on doors and making calls in real estate. It has just tremendous value, lots of pointers, lots of ideas on how to close a sale. Psychology of Selling is a good one, and it's you wrote that probably 25 years ago. Is that right? I mean, it's been a while.
Well, there are certain things that are always true, certain constants. I wrote a book called Advanced Selling Skills some years ago, and you and I were at this conference in Las Vegas, you remember? And there were 4,000 people, and because I was receiving an award, they had me meet with some of the top people, one after another, and take photographs and sign books and so on. And they all had read Advanced Selling Strategies. And they said this book was the Bible for this 4,000 company organization nationwide. And each of these people that we spoke to was earning more than $1 million a year in sales. They were all started off with nothing and read the book, Advanced Selling Skills, listened to the program, The Art of Closing the Sale, and so on. And these people were all, I was just shaking my head, all earning more than $1 million a year, knocking on doors and making sales.
So let's say you have your goals written. You write your goals every day. You put a date on them. You make sure that they're measurable, and you're making those calls. And it's been a couple weeks. You haven't gotten an appointment. You haven't gotten a contract signed. What advice would you give to somebody who is following the process but has yet to see the results? Because this is where a lot of people give up. This is where a lot of people start to go to a dark place mentally and question their life choices.
Yeah, because we also had a question about learned helplessness.
Yeah.
So, perfect.
So what would you say to somebody who has been doing what you advise, but has yet to see the results from it?
Well, Barbara and I have studied the subject at great length, and we stumbled across this principle, and it's taught by Aristotle, and it's taught by Earl Nightingale. And the principle is that you become what you think about most of the time. So you can tell what direction you're going to go in life by what you think about. Now, if you drive around listening to music on the radio or talk shows, then you'll go nowhere with your life. If you drive around listening to educational audio programs that give you ideas on how to be more successful, you're going to have a totally different experience because you become what you think about. Now, here's the second point is you become what you say to yourself. You become what you say to yourself. Whatever you plant into your mind grows. So the three most important things to say all the time are, number one is I can do it. I can do it. Whatever goal you can set for yourself, the very fact that you can set it as a goal and write it down means that it's probably true. Number two is I never give up. I never give up. Even if you have every single kind of setback and difficulty, you just take a deep breath and say, well, some will, some won't. So what? Next time I'll do better. And so you say, I never give up. And then the most favorite of all, I used to say to my audiences, I would say, what is it that the highest paid sales professionals or highest paid people in any field say? And they are the magic words, I am responsible. Oh, I'm sorry. Unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Yeah.
I'm unstoppable. And
Yep.
I said, all right, now say it. Say, I am unstoppable. And this audience, 2,000 people says, I am unstoppable. I said, no. Say it like you mean it. I am unstoppable. No, I want it louder. And then they all shout, I am unstoppable. And you know something, when you cross that point in your life where you realize you will never quit, you will continue, you will try this, you will fail, you'll fall on your face, you'll learn things, but you are unstoppable.
I have a great idea, Dad. And for everybody listening right now, as you're hearing this, I want you to type in the chat, I am unstoppable. Let's all own that for today, whether you say it yourself or whether you type it in the chat. I want you to just have the experience of saying, I am unstoppable.
Yes.
Yeah. And know that you're rewriting the script of your own self-belief.
Come on, guys. I want to see it. Yes. Okay. Good job, Hector.
Wow. One thing that you helped me, Dad, when I was in real estate in the beginning was learn to love the no's. Learn to love the no's because, in sales, it's a numbers game.
Gracia, Magdalena, Vivek. You guys, look at this. Let's just acknowledge the
Sorry.
people here. Come on. This is great, guys.
Yes, that's wonderful.
To affect your day, we want you to take this with you. Feel empowered. Whatever you're listening to, whatever's meant something to you today, like really absorb it and be unstoppable. Way to go, Marco and Patrick and Francesca.
That's great.
Beautiful. Look at that, Dad.
Yes, I honestly, and I think we should wrap it up with this, you guys. I think
Fair enough.
Yeah. You guys are unstoppable. Way to go. Thank you for participating. This is awesome. Yes.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Dad. And we'll see you guys all next week.
Yeah.
Every Wednesday. So
We love you guys.
unstoppable. Yes.
Thanks, everybody.